Let's dive in. Imagine for a second the universe isn't just, space and rocks and stuff,
Hmm.
but it's more like a giant living book, a kind of text,
Mm.
maybe written by, well, something divine,
Yeah.
where every single thing, a plant, a stone, an animal, it holds a hidden message, a sign that reveals what it really is, its purpose, and how it connects to, well, everything else.
That's a profoundly different way of looking at the world than we typically have today, isn't it? And it's exactly where we're going.
Right.
We're digging into how this really ancient idea, this interconnected sign cosmos, how it got this huge revival, this reshaping during the European Renaissance.
Absolutely. So this deep dive, it's all about these Renaissance philosophies of connection. We've got some source material, excerpts from a chapter looking right at this.
Hmm.
And we're going to use that to really unpack this core idea, signature or rerum.
The signature of things.
Yeah, the signature of things.
Hmm.
And our guides through this whole intellectual landscape, there are going to be three main figures, Marsilio Ficino.
Giovanni Pico della Mirandola and Giovanni Battista della Porta. So the goal is really to pull out the key insights. What were the fascinating concepts? And what were the actual, practical applications of this Renaissance worldview?
Yeah.
Because it was powerful.
Yeah, okay, so let's set the scene a bit.
Yeah.
The Renaissance, it wasn't just fancy art, right? It was this, fervent rediscovery of old knowledge.
Oh, totally. Texts that were lost, forgotten for centuries, suddenly being unearthed, translated.
Wow.
And thinkers were grabbing this stuff, weaving it into totally new ways of understanding the world. It was a really dynamic time.
Like finding, I don't know, ancient blueprints for a reality hidden away.
Kind of, yeah. And they weren't just copying the past, they were building on it, especially using things like Neoplatonism, Hermeticism, other sort of esoteric traditions that were coming back.
And right at the heart of this new-old perspective was signatura recrum. We touched on it, but let's dig a bit deeper. What did it really mean for something to have a signature?
Well, the core idea was that everything from the tiniest herb up to the biggest star, carried this inherent mark, a stamp.
Okay.
And it wasn't just a surface feature. It was seen as a divinely put there sign that revealed its inner nature, its hidden powers, or virtues, they'd say. And crucially, its sympathetic links to other things, especially often to parts of the human body.
So it's not just, oh, that cloud looks like a rabbit. It's
Huh.
saying the resemblance means something. It's there for a reason.
Precisely. The outward form wasn't just random. It was seen as a direct clue, a revelation of the object's inner essence and its intended job, its function within the whole cosmic setup. It implied this really deep causal link.
What's the classic example? The one from the source that really nails it.
Oh, the walnut. Definitely the walnut.
Right.
The fact that a walnut kernel looks so much like a little human brain, that was seen as a clear signature. It wasn't a coincidence. It looked like a brain because it was divinely meant to be good for the brain, to nourish it, maybe even heal it.
Which, I guess, if you put yourself in that mindset, it feels completely logical. This signature is like a user manual left by the creator.
Exactly. An accessible guide. Visible clues so people could read nature and figure out how to use things, especially for healing. It gave them a framework that made connections that seem maybe magical to us feel perfectly rational within their understanding of the cosmos.
Yeah, it turned just looking at stuff into a kind of divine reading lesson.
That's a great way to put it. Divine literacy. You weren't just seeing, you were reading God's handwriting.
Okay, so who were the big names helping people read this cosmic book? The source points to three. Let's start with Marsilio Ficino, Florence, described as a philosophical conduit.
Yeah, Ficino was absolutely foundational. I mean, his massive effort translating Plato, Plotinus, these crucial Hermetic texts into Latin, that wasn't just academic.
Right.
It basically flooded Europe with these ancient ideas about a living, connected universe. He single-handedly revived Neoplatonism, really, made it a huge influence again.
And for him, the universe was all about what?
Yeah.
Cosmic love, harmony.
Pretty much. A great chain of being, stretching from the divine all the way down to rocks and dirt, all linked by this cosmic love.
Okay, but how did everything talk to each other in this chain? How did influence travel?
That's where his key concept comes in, the spiritus mundi, often translated as the world's soul.
The world soul, okay, the cosmic medium?
Think of it like a really subtle, invisible Maybe ether, a living light, a cosmic breath or spirit that just permeated everything, absolutely
And
everything.
this Spiritus Mundi, its job was.
Its job was to carry the influences. It's what allowed, say, the stars and planets to impress their virtues or qualities onto things here on Earth. It's what facilitated all those sympathetic connections that showed up as signatures.
Huh. So without this Spiritus Mundi acting as the, I don't know, cosmic internet,
Yeah, good analogy.
the idea that a plant's shape could mirror a star or a particular stone could heal a specific organ,
Mm.
that would just be folklore, wishful thinking.
That's basically it, yeah. Ficino provided the philosophical underpinning, the metaphysical plumbing, you could say.
Right.
That made Signatura Rerum seem not just like a nice poetic idea, but a plausible reality. It was rooted in how they thought the cosmos actually worked. It wasn't just random similarity. It was the result of this living spirit connecting things.
Wow. Okay, so Ficino gives us the universe's operating system.
Mm.
Then comes Giovanni Pico della Mirandola. Younger guy, audacious intellect, the source says.
Pico was,
Yeah.
yeah, audacious is a good word, a force of nature. If Ficino was the conduit bringing ideas back, Pico was the grand synthesizer.
Okay.
He wasn't happy just following one path. His huge ambition was to weave together Christian theology, Neoplatonism, Hermeticism, Jewish Kabbalah, even Arabic philosophy into one single unified wisdom.
In his famous work, The Oration on the Dignity of Man, that seems tied into this, sort of highlighting human potential.
Oh, absolutely central. It's this declaration of humanity's unique ability to understand this layered, interconnected reality. For Pico, the universe wasn't just some fixed ladder. It was more like a vast symbolic code, a whole system of correspondences just waiting for us to figure it out.
And that's where human agency comes in. How did Pico see our role?
This is Pico's really key contribution, I think. He argued that by studying these traditions, by understanding the correspondences, by learning to read the divine signatures, humanity wasn't just, watching the cosmic show.
We could participate.
Exactly. You could actively engage with the cosmos. You could understand its hidden sympathies and even potentially harness them. For spiritual growth, sure, but also for practical knowledge. His was really a philosophy of empowerment. Knowledge is power, quite literally in his view.
Okay, so Ficino gives us the cosmic network, the Spiritus Mundi. Pico tells us humans have the capacity, the dignity to understand and use this network. So who comes along and says, okay, brilliant philosophy, guys, but how do we actually do stuff with this?
That would lead us straight to Giovanni Battista della Porta, an Italian polymath, kind of enigmatic. His focus was much more on the practical side of things.
And his big book, Natural Magic.
That's the one, Magia Naturalis. First out in 1558, then he kept expanding it. And you should think of it like a practical handbook.
Right.
A guide on how to actually apply this understanding of signatures and sympathies. But it's really important to get what he meant by natural magic.
Yeah, not spells and demons.
No, definitely not demonic sorcery. For Della Porta, it was about understanding and then skillfully using the natural hidden laws that were already embedded in creation, the secret sympathies within nature itself.
Okay. It says,
So his book is just full of examples, like how specific shapes influence function, the supposed power hidden in colors, how you could transfer properties from one thing to another using these sympathetic principles.
like the magnet attracting iron example. That's sympathy.
Classic example of sympathy in action, yes.
Yeah.
Or he'd detail, which plants, based on their shape, maybe their color, how they grew, their signature, basically,
Right.
could be used to treat ailments in the corresponding part of the body. Or how they could draw out specific humors as they understood health then. He was essentially providing the recipes based on reading nature's signs.
So Della Porta is the one building the bridge, taking this grand philosophy and showing how reading signatures could actually unlock real-world benefits. Medicine, alchemy, farming, crafts.
He really was. He translated that big framework into actionable steps. He made the book of nature, you could say, readable for practical purposes.
So bringing these threads together, Ficino, Pico, Della Porta, they all contribute in their own ways to this really pervasive Renaissance idea. The natural world as a book of nature, literally written by God.
And it wasn't just a nice poem or metaphor for them. It felt like a profound truth, the whole universe, a sacred text. Every creature, every plant, every rock, every star. It was a word, maybe a phrase, maybe a whole sentence in this text.
On the signatures, those were the characters. The divine
And I
script,
felt like hieroglyphs, yeah. Left there for humanity to decipher.
which means studying nature wasn't just science. It was theology. It was literally studying the mind of God.
In a very real sense, yes. And understanding its hidden connections, its sympathies, reading those
Oh.
signatures that was becoming literate in this amazing living book of creation.
And this way of thinking, it wasn't just stuck in universities, right? This filtered down.
Oh, absolutely not. This worldview completely shaped how healers diagnosed and treated, how alchemists did their experiments, how astronomers interpreted the heavens, even how ordinary people understood the plants in their garden or the stones in the field.
Yeah.
It provided a lens that allowed them to see things we might dismiss as, I don't know, superstition or coincidence. They saw them as just the natural laws of the cosmos playing out, unveiling deeper connections.
There's that line from the source that captures it so well. Something like, to see a tree is just roots and branches.
But to understand its true signature, you must feel the invisible currents of earth and sky that flow through its very sap, binding it to the whole.
Yeah. It really speaks to that deep feeling of connection, doesn't it? And the hidden meanings they saw everywhere.
It does, a world vibrant with meaning.
So, okay, we've seen how these thinkers, Ficino with the Spiritus Mundi, Pico with human potential and correspondences,
Hmm.
Della Porta with practical natural magic,
Hmm.
they built this really robust framework.
Mhm.
They presented a universe that wasn't just full of signatures, but was actively communicating through them, all bound together by these deep, sympathetic connections.
And you can really feel how this wasn't just, intellectual games. This worldview genuinely shaped how people lived, how they looked for healing, how they understood their own place in a cosmos that felt alive, responsive, maybe even participatory.
Now, the source wraps up with a really interesting little nudge, doesn't it? It asks us to think about applying this signature idea, not just to nature, but to things we make, human-created objects.
Yeah, it sort of hints at the idea of a book of humankind, maybe, where the things we create might also carry signatures from the maker's intention, perhaps, or the materials, or just their function in our lives.
So, okay, let's try it. Think about just an everyday object, something near you right now.
Right.
Maybe your keys, a coffee mug,
Mm.
the one you're looking at. If that object was signed by its human creator, or just by its existence in human life, signed to reveal its deeper purpose or some symbolic link, what would its signatures be?
That's interesting. What does the material suggest? Its shape? Does it have wear and tear that tells a story? What part of human life does it seem to connect with? Like you said, keys for access, security, a mug holding warmth, comfort.
Right. And just doing that exercise, just thinking about looking for meaning, for symbolic connections in the shapes and materials and functions of everyday stuff,
Hmm.
how does that help us maybe grasp the intuitive power this whole book of nature idea must have held for people back then?
It gives you a little taste, doesn't it? A glimpse into seeing the world not as inert objects, but as resonant, as full of potential meaning, just waiting to be read.
Something to think about maybe next time you pick up something familiar. What signatures might you see that you didn't notice before?